As our guest today has reminded us a few times on this newscast, the Texas legislature has one requirement and one requirement only every couple of years: pass a budget. Both the House and the Senate have passed their versions. Now a committee of 5 representatives and 5 senators are hashing out a final version. And you look at the local representation on that committee. You've got Lois Kolkhorst and Charles Schwartner. They're the senators for all of the Brazos Valley. And then a pair of representatives who represent some eastern counties. That's Trent Ashby and John Otto, a couple of Aggies, in fact. They are these four of the 10 on that committee. There's a flurry of other bills working to get out of committees and off of the respective floors. The House today came up one vote shy of a unanimous approval of a bill that would require first-time drunk driving offenders with low blood alcohol levels at the time of the arrest to drive with a suspended license, I should say, if they pass a breathalyzer test on an ignition interlock device that would be installed in the vehicle. Abortion was among the most prominent issues last session, especially with Wendy Davis's filibuster. A little bit quieter this time on that topic, but today a bill passed the Senate along party lines that would mean most abortions in the state couldn't be covered by insurance purchased through the Affordable Care Act. About 24 states have similar laws in place. Ross Ramsey, the executive editor at the Texas Tribune, back with us to give his perspective on the way forward in Austin over these next few, maybe chaotic weeks. He's with us in Austin. And Ross, I guess let's start with the budget, since that obviously has to get done. We've talked about it before. What are the big wrinkles right now that those 10 representatives and senators are going to have to iron out?
You know, they have a bunch of number differences and a bunch of program differences. The biggest one is a tax bill difference. The House wants to lower sales taxes. The Senate wants to increase the size of the homestead exemption on your property taxes. And until they settle that difference over which tax to cut, which is kind of a pleasant problem, until they solve that, they don't know what number to plug into the budget. So that's the biggest one. They've got some distance to travel on transportation. There's some differences between the two houses, some differences on public education. But both John Otto, the House Appropriations Chairman, and Jane Nelson, the Senate Finance Chairman, say that overall, aside from the tax bills, they're really pretty close.
Governor Greg Abbott had talked a lot about wanting to provide some new funding for pre-kindergarten in Texas. What's the Cliff Notes version, I guess, on what he's looking for, and then where does he stand in getting it from the House and Senate?
The House passed a $136 million pre-K program. It's a little bit of an expansion of the program. It's not as big as it sounds. They're largely replacing money that they cut a couple of years ago. There's some things that the governor wants to watch, metrics, and see how that works, and maybe justify or prove the case against an expansion later on. It was popular in the House. It's not very popular in the Senate, and in fact, an advisory committee that was sort of appointed by, it's a non-official committee, appointed by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, immediately jumped out and called it a godless program, that kind of thing that you would see in a socialist country. The governor got a little bit irked about that, and that's what led to that breakfast blow-up you may have heard about between the governor, the lieutenant governor, and speaker a couple of weeks ago.
So while we're talking about the governor, do you think he's satisfied right now with where things are standing overall in the legislature? I know he had 5 emergency items, and some of those have yet to really be addressed right now.
Yeah, May is the month when you find out whether things are actually going to work or not. You know, it always seems like the legislature does nothing until the last month, and now we're in the last month, and so we'll find out very quickly how Greg Abbott's emergencies do. The Senate has passed his ethics bill. The House hasn't done it. The House passed his pre-K bill. The Senate hasn't done it. There are a bunch of things that are kind of in that shape, and the governor's really not in a position when he can do anything but sit back and watch with the rest of us.
A lot of folks here are keeping an eye on a couple of issues with some implications for our universities. One at this point is when it comes to in-state tuition and some potential changes there.
Yeah, the House and the Senate both have looked at this. You know, it used to be a very popular idea in Texas. It got a kind of a political virus out on the presidential trail 4 years ago when Rick Perry went on the road and came back, and it's now fairly unpopular with Texas Republicans, but sort of mixed when you look at the legislature as a whole. I'm not sure it will pass. I am sure it'll be a big debate before they get out of here this month.
And we're talking about in-state tuition when it comes to the folks who are coming into the country from across the border?
Well, right. As it stands now, a kid who is in Texas, an illegal immigrant in Texas, or an undocumented immigrant in Texas, who's been here for 3 years, graduated from a Texas high school, has the grades to get into a Texas school, and has applied for citizenship, can get in-state tuition at Texas colleges and universities. This bill would repeal that and say they have to pay out-of-state tuition.
And then there is campus carry and open carry. Campus carry has Senate approval. It's moving in the House. and I guess open carry just basically all but approved at this point.
Yeah, open carry looks easy. Campus carry looks a little bit more troublesome. I'm not sure it will pass. I'm pretty certain that open carry will pass. It's always dangerous to predict the future in the legislatures at this stage, though.
What's holding campus carry up?
Part of it is Admiral McRaven. You know, the campus carry has run into opposition from various chancellors of some universities from time to time. John Sharp at A&M has said that he trusts his kids with that if they have concealed guns on campus. But the biggest opponent to this is Bill McRaven, who's the new chancellor at the University of Texas. He's a former Admiral, Navy SEAL, and he says it would make campuses less safe, and that's given some pause to some legislators, and some legislators who are looking for a reason not to vote for that, it's given some cover.
As always, Ross Ramsey with some great insight there, and we look forward to talking to you as the legislature winds down. I know a lot of folks in Austin are ready for the chaos to be over, but there is still quite a bit still to come, I would imagine. Thank you, Ross.
Yeah, thanks so much.